it's Rebecca Levis coming to you from San Diego. We're going to study the Torah together. And what is the purpose of ending the heart of the Torah with curses and blessings? So join me today and let's get started and look at the scriptures through Hebrew lenses. So now let's look at the second part of this, Bechukotai. What does that mean? Well, it means God's statutes. A hoch is something that God tells you to do and you don't really understand why. You're just asked to obey. This again is where trust comes in, because ultimately God is the one who made everything and made us. So he understands the purpose. We may not see it initially, but I've walked with him for 50 years. And I always said, Lord, I don't care if it takes 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 50 years. I want to see my finish line in every area of my life, in my personal life, in my marriage, as a mother, as a friend. So, Lord, I just want to finish well. I want to finish strong, not without bruises and bumps and scars to prove it, but I will finish strong. I believe that. Why? Because I hang on to him. He is my source of strength in this crazy world. So I hope you will be encouraged today. So here's the hoch. It's hocha. It means to draw or portray, to engrave or inscribe. In other words, it's something that will last. I love that. Engrave or inscribe. You can dig up things thousands of years old, and what will be on them? Inscriptions. They're meant to last. And so these laws are meant to be something that if you do them, you'll have lasting consequences that are positive. Okay, so this wasn't the same as a mitzvah, which was a command or a judgment. A shafat is a judgment. These laws were in the Torah, and they had to do with moral law, civil law, dietary, ritual law, holiness law, agriculture, criminal law, blasphemy, spiritual law, sacrificial law, contamination laws, purification laws. I think we should just subtitle it the good luck laws. In other words, good luck keeping all those. If you think you're living Torah, good luck. If you break one of those, you're not living Torah. So that's the point, is that no one can perfectly live this life that God was pointing to as his standard. No one except Jesus. He was the only one that ever walked this earth that could do that. So the laws were given because of man's heart condition. Okay, so a medication is developed based on a need for this disease to be cured, right? So God was giving all these hukot, these laws, in order, like a medicine, for what was already going on in man's heart and in the pagan nations around them. So it was added because of man's behavior until the coming of the seed about whom the promise was made. This is Galatians 3:19 in the New Testament. The promise was made to Abraham 430 years earlier than this story. So it hasn't changed. It's based on a promise, and God can't break his promise. So how did Abraham get declared righteous? By believing in what God said. How do we be declared righteous? By believing in what Jesus said. I am the way, not a way, the truth, not a truth, the life, not just any life. So Jesus was here to show us that he was the promised seed. And we talked about that the very first book of Genesis, didn't we? And so you see here, Galatians echoes that same thing. He says the law was given until the seed comes. And now that the seed is here, we don't need those laws, even though they were holy, righteous, and good. No one could keep them. And so now we function in righteousness in his kingdom, and we walk by the spirit of the law, not the law. You see this? See the difference there? So if you want to keep the feast days, if you want to keep a Sabbath day, that is beautiful. And we're supposed to have a day of rest. This is how God wants us to live. So anyway, that's a controversial subject. There's a lot of things I could say right now, but I'm not going to stay on that hill right now. And now we're justified by the promise of the one who could fulfill those laws, and that was Jesus. So man's righteousness would be obtained by the conclusion or the end of the law. Or to say it another way, when the Messiah appeared as the ultimate goal or fulfillment of those demands of the law, then we enter the kingdom and are declared righteous, not by keeping external laws of the Torah, but by the righteousness obtained for us by the Messiah. It's his Holy Spirit in us now that leads us in the same paths of righteousness for his name's sake. You see, that's Psalm 23. He leads me in paths of righteousness. Well, the law was those paths, but no one could keep them. Okay, so now we walk in paths of righteousness and we follow the Spirit that lives in us. This is the temple now, and we walk by faith in the one who saved us, which is Jesus. So once you've reached that goal, right, you're at the end of the race for righteousness. So, right, you finished the race. All of the laws of racing still remain in place, even though you've reached your finish line, right? The end. So Christ is the end of the law. In other words, the fulfillment of all that. So Messiah is the goal, the goal line for obtaining righteousness or victory. And it's because of his work, not ours, that we're justified as victorious when we cross our finish line. So we are no longer under the curse of the Torah, which means no one can keep it. There's a curse there. We aren't under the punishment or a condemnation that the law demanded. We've been set free. It's a jubilee. So following Jesus is like a Shemitah or a jubilee where all is forgiven and we go home to the one who loves us, and home to the one who wants to bless us, even in the midst of trials and troubles. So Yeshua freed us from that curse of the law by becoming the curse for us. And that's Galatians 3:13. So Israel ignored the Shemitahs of letting the land rest. And that 10 cycles of 7 years, ended up being 70 years that they didn't obey God. And guess how long they went into exile in Babylon? 70 years. Okay. So it was like 1 year for all of those 70 that they didn't practice this cycle. So God warned his bride about falling away, trusting in yourself. It's a gradual process, and it leads to, just like the one in Jeremiah 17, where it says, you'll be like in a salt land, you'll be alone, there'll be dryness, compromise, illness, loneliness, wrong choices, and often major choices that affect the rest of your life. Oh my goodness. I know as a woman who in her 20s was very promiscuous and left me infertile, that there was severe consequences to my behavior. And yes, I was saved. And yes, I love Jesus. And yes, I've been following him and teaching and preaching, and have led hundreds of people to Jesus. However, the consequences were lifelong. And although he blessed me and gave me 2 wonderful adopted sons, my Eric and Stephen, it came with consequences. And so when we trust in ourselves to fulfill that longing, I was looking for love in all the wrong places and faces. And when we look to ourselves or to other people to try to fill that void there, it's going to leave you in a position where the blessing that might have been is not realized. So Israel's obedience could have been different if they had obeyed and listened. They could have had peace, and they would not have been taken into exile. But God will use discipline on his people in order to get them to turn back to him And that's exactly what happened when they came out of Babylon. Ezra the scribe rewrote the Torah, and the temple was rebuilt, and the people repented, and there was blessing that followed that, but not without the 70 years of suffering. So that's a message for all of us today. So Psalm 17:8, I like what it says. It says, keep me as the apple of your eye. What does that mean? It means face-to-face intimacy, as if everything God says, you hang on every word. Do you remember when you first started dating somebody you really loved, and everything they said, you gave them their full attention, and oh yes, I agree 100%. Oh, I can't wait to be with you. I can't wait to see you. Can't wait to listen to all your heart's desires and blah, 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 right? So when we love Jesus, we have eye to eye intimacy, and we say, now what, Lord? Show me what to do today. I walked into the gym this morning with a friend who's a Christian, and we both started praying as we walked into the gym. Lord, who needs you today? Who can I encourage? Who can send someone to me, Lord, who needs you today? And that's our prayer every time we go out and leave our house, right? The rabbis call this apple of your eye, ishon bat ayin. That's the saying in Hebrew. And it says it's when we keep our eyes on him that we are the little man of the eye. In other words, our reflection shows up in Jesus' eyes, in the pupil of his eye. And so they call that the little man of the eye, or the apple of his eye, because the pupil is the apple. So David was saying, may I focus on God for my power, my provision, and approval. And that is the heart of David, who wrote Psalm 17. He says, keep me in that place where it's only you. Just put blinders on around me to anything that I think can sustain me or give me help in time of trouble other than you. And that was David's heart cry as well. Look at Romans 12:2 in the New Testament. Do not be conformed to the pattern of this world, but be transformed, metamorphosis, by the renewing of your mind. And also it talks about that in Titus 3:5, regeneration, right? You need that born again heart from above. And then God begins to change our minds. And we're transformed as we grow spiritually. So this wasn't an improvement program or try to be more positive or be a better you or more enlightened, but you have to be a new creation, a new you. You have to be totally changed. I have to die to self in order to live for his will. And that's the transformation, right? So this regeneration involves a conforming, I want to change that here, conforming to God's will so that we impact those around us. And this takes place so that what is good and satisfying and successful in God's eyes will be what we look for. And that calling is for us to serve him in that way. That is what it means to be a Christian. So we need to ask God, Lord, what would please you today? When you get up in the morning, Lord, there's a lot going on around me. I've got all these concerns and worries, and the world seems like it's going crazy and it's upside down, and wrong is right and right is wrong, and up is down and down is up. Our transformation is based on faith that comes as a gift of grace. As we turn to him and we just say, Lord, I don't get it. Lord, I don't know what. Lord, show me the next step. You follow somebody step by step. You don't have to know what's around the next corner. Just follow step by step. And each of us has a different role and a different purpose, right? But we're all part of the same body of believers. And that's how they use that analogy in the New Testament, that the body has many parts. Not everybody's a mouth. Not everybody is a filter system like your kidneys or your liver. Not everybody is a hand, okay? And so to be healthy as a whole body, we have to identify with him and function in our design and purpose. That's the real Jubilee. Go home, function in your design and God-given purpose. Oh my goodness. I wish I could get on a mountaintop and just shout that So we're all given gifts. Now, I hope you know your spiritual gift and you begin to function in that. And I've listed some of the gifts here. And be cheerful in this gifting because they're from God. Okay. So this is a demonstration of how much we love Him when what we do is in His name and for His sake and for His will to be done on earth as it is in heaven. Oh my goodness, Lord, help us in this time, right? So don't let love just as an outward showing, so that people can say, oh, isn't Rebecca wonderful? Look all she's doing. No, it's detest what is evil, cling to what is good. This is the recipe. Don't be lazy when hard work is needed. Serve the Lord with a spiritual fervor. In other words, be consistent. Study, grow, read your word, grow in your faith. Okay, rejoice in hope. In other words, when other people are successful, we should rejoice with them, not wish them harm so that we can look better. Boy, is that so tempting to do, isn't it, when you look at things going on around us? So it says, rejoice in your hope, be patient in afflictions, and what? Steadfast in prayer. I think that's the one area that all of us can admit we need more of, more self-discipline. I know I do. So bless those who persecute us. Be sensitive to the needs of others. Show proper respect and brotherly love. If possible, live at peace with everyone and don't take revenge. Don't be overcome by the evil around you, but overcome evil, brokenness, with good. Okay, so when somebody does something against you, return good to them and bless them and pray for them. It's hard to hate people that you spend time praying for. So these are just the ways that I'm encouraging my own heart as well to be steadfast in all these areas. And that is how we're to walk out the Torah. So studying the Torah and the New Testament means that I'm gazing into my lover's eyes every day, seeing him for all he's worth. And it's there that I find my strength, my worth, and my song. He's the one who has established me by the rivers of living water, and no one can unroot me. The Bible says no one can snatch you from my hand. So if you are rooted in Jesus and you're feeling stressed and concerned about things around you, keep your eyes on Him. Realize who you are, who your identity is, and ask God to, Lord, what would satisfy you today? What can I do to take my eyes off myself, my kids, my husband, whatever, and let me just do your work? That's why I'm here. So here's how you end every book of Torah. I say Mazel Tov, congratulations, Havarim, friends in Hebrew. We've completed the third book of the Torah, the one that a lot of Gentile Christians can't wait to read through real quick. It's been a blessing. I hope you've learned things. So here's what they say when you finish a book of Torah. Hazak Hazak, Venit Hazak. It means be strong, and may you be strengthened. Wow, that's a great way to end, isn't it? So today, if you're feeling discouraged or you're feeling fearful, I talked to a group of women at a Bible study yesterday, and I went around the table and I said, what are you all afraid of? Name one thing. And practically all of them was the condition of the world around them. And so today, if your heart is fearful or anxious, I just pray that you would step into that rest that He wants you to have today, and that you'll realize that He's right there. If we trust in Him, His promises are true. Doesn't mean we won't have trials or difficulty, but our roots will go deep because of who we are in Him. So be encouraged today, church, and God bless you, and I'll see you next time on Sparky's Torah Time. Don't forget to share with your friends and family. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.